Alone at home, a tale of desolation. The wind howled outside, its mournful wail echoing through the empty streets. Inside the old Victorian house, Sarah sat on the creaking floorboards, her fingers trembling as she clutched her phone. The power had gone out hours ago, and she was now alone in the darkness. It had been a gloomy, stormy evening when Sarah's husband, John, had left for a business trip. He had assured her he'd be back in a few days, but the isolation of the house weighed on her. As the rain pelted the windows and thunder rumbled ominously, Sarah's anxiety grew with every passing hour. With her flashlight in hand, Sarah explored the eerie, dimly lit house. Her footsteps reverberated through the empty rooms, magnifying the feeling of isolation. The only source of light was the occasional flash of lightning, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Sarah's unease deepened when she reached the old mirror in the hallway. In the flickering candlelight, she caught a glimpse of a pale, distorted face staring back at her. Her own reflection seemed to contort into a grotesque grin, but when she blinked, it returned to normal.
She dismissed it as a trick of her imagination, but her heart raced nonetheless. With each passing hour, the storm outside intensified, rattling the windows and creating a symphony of eerie sounds. As she moved through the dark, musty rooms, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was not alone. Whispers, faint and indistinct, seemed to echo in the distance. She tried to convince herself it was the wind playing tricks on her mind. Sarah settled into the living room, cocooned in blankets and clutching her phone, seeking solace in the presence of her friends in an online group chat. Her friends offered comforting words, but their emojis and text messages felt hollow in the quiet of the house. The hours passed slowly, and Sarah's exhaustion began to take hold. She considered trying to sleep, but the house was so unsettling, she couldn't bring herself to close her eyes. She continued texting her friends, their words providing a fragile thread of connection to the outside world. Then, the battery on her phone died. The room plunged into complete darkness, save for the occasional flashes of lightning outside. Sarah felt a creeping dread, and the isolation intensified. She reached for her flashlight but found it wouldn't turn on. Panic began to set in. In the pitch-black room, she could hear something, a soft whispering that seemed to come from just beyond her line of sight. It was as if 1,000 voices were speaking in hushed tones, unintelligible but unmistakably present. Goosebumps covered her arms as she huddled in the corner of the room. In a moment of desperation, Sarah felt her way to the front door. She pulled it open and was met with a wall of rain and wind. In her frazzled state, she didn't know where to go or what to do. The storm outside seemed impenetrable. She closed the door and returned to the living room, her mind racing. As she fumbled around, her fingers brushed against an old photo album on a nearby shelf. She opened it, revealing faded images of the house's previous occupants, long deceased family members who had lived here many years ago. As she flipped through the pages, her blood ran cold. In the photographs, the same grotesque, grinning faces she had seen in the hallway mirror appeared. It was as though the sinister energy of the house had been captured in those snapshots. Sarah's fear and isolation were reaching a breaking point. She couldn't explain the strange occurrences, the whispers, or the eerie faces in the photographs. It was as if the house itself had come alive with malevolent intent, and she was trapped within its grasp. Desperate for answers, Sarah decided to venture into the basement, the darkest and most foreboding part of the house. With her flashlight seemingly dead, she lit a single candle and made her way down the creaking stairs. The air grew colder with each step, and the flickering candlelight cast long, menacing shadows on the damp, cobweb-covered walls. In the basement, she discovered a hidden door behind an old bookshelf. With trembling hands, she pushed it open, revealing a small, crypt-like chamber. Inside, she found an old journal, its pages yellowed with age. As she began to read, the words sent shivers down her spine. The journal belonged to a previous occupant of the house, a man who had been consumed by madness. His writings described eerie occurrences, grotesque faces in the mirrors, and relentless, incomprehensible whispers. He had tried to escape, but the house held him prisoner, driving him to the brink of insanity. Sarah realized that the house was not just a home. It was a malevolent entity, and it craved the souls of those who entered. She had unwittingly become its prey. As she read the journal, Sarah heard the whispers grow louder, surrounding her like a swarm of tormenting spirits. The flickering candle went out, plunging her into complete darkness. She was no longer alone. The house had claimed her. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also don't forget to subscribe. See you in the dark.